The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to this Earnestly podcast. I'm late Thursday night here in South Florida on the line, of course.
Something like that, but I don't know about this late crap. I mean, you know, it may not be the afternoon, but how old are you? Jesus.
Well, let's put it this way. We're in 2020. And first off, before I start this show, this is the first podcast of 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year to the show. Let me give my saludes first, out of the way. Now, on the line with us, Kyle Nash, to the Game Report. On here.
Well, it's a good way. Hey, honestly, man, thank you for fitting me in. I know that talking about choreographed fighting is a difficult endeavor, but from what I could tell, it's doing well for you.
Pro wrestling. Hey, man, I just watched AEW from last night, so I had time. Anyway,
what the hell were the Rockers thinking with those outfits, though? Seriously, as much as I respect Shawn Michaels.
1992. And actually, to be honest, that was actually their 80s. That was like their 80s outfits, 80s and 90s, early 90s outfits.
Everything.
Shawn Michaels.
Carry on.
Yeah. Anyway, a lot going on this week in the NFL. Obviously, the season's over. I mean, the regular season's over. We start the playoffs coming up this weekend. We'll get to our picks in a second. And we'll get to some of the things that happened with the coaches and Black Monday and all that. But Kyle, I gotta talk to you about this shit, man.
Do it.
And the Jason Garrett saga. I mean, we all assume he's been fired by now. All of a sudden, they're having, 3 meetings now? They haven't decided what they're doing yet. Now the rumor is that he might still have a job, not necessarily as a head coach, but in, upper management maybe. I don't know. What the hell's going on in Dallas, man?
You know, this is something, and when I allude to things, I quote them, and oftentimes you and I have spoken to how I model my craft after two guys, Eric Kuselius and Colin Cowherd. So inevitably I listened to Colin Cowherd, obviously. And he made a point that I think really speaks to solving the answer to this, right? Mm-hmm. Jerry Jones and the Cowboys' biggest problem as a franchise when it comes to expanding or adjusting staff are much like a royal family. The blood is always blue. Wow, that actually fits even better than I thought. That's what she said. Right. Anyway, so, when you look at it, right, Jason Garrett, former Cowboy. Kellen Moore, their offensive coordinator, former Cowboy. I believe their defensive coordinator, former Cowboy. I believe their GM, former Cowboy. Do you see a trend? Some of the rumors are that one Jason Witten will take over as head coach, former Cowboy. I've heard a conspiracy theory tossed out that Michael Irvin could be a new offensive coordinator or coach of some sort, former Cowboy. I mean, now granted, the last two are technically rumors, but you can't rule them out. Meanwhile, you and I both know the answer would be for him to bring in, let's say, a Mike McCarthy, somebody like that. If the reason why you got this treatment of Jason Garrett at this time by Jerry Jones proves that he's going to be fired. What they're trying to do is find a way for him to land on his feet that the public won't just throw tomatoes at.
The tomatoes, I don't get that. First off, I mean, it's safe to say that I would gather to say that at least 70% of the Cowboys fan base, and that's putting it lightly, or rather him not be part of this team anymore. That I don't get that.
Well, okay. Say what you will about Jerry Jones, loyalty is a thing for him.
Yeah,
that's a fact. So again, he's in this position where he's trying to make everybody happy. Let's be honest, among NFL leadership, this is not a trend or a trait that is most often accounted for. But and again, this is all me being skeptical. I'm not around the locker room. I'm not around the organization. None of that. But when I put all the evidence together, that is what my fragile little brain comes up with.
So you do think he'll get fired?
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, the more meetings they have, and I know this is counterintuitive, but the more meetings they have, the more I feel like it supports my theory that they're trying to find a way to keep him involved with the team without, again, pissing off the fan base, because I think you're spot on. I think the Cowboys fan nation are done with Garrett. Hell, I've been critical of Garrett back when I was still doing the Student of the Game podcast, and that wrapped in 2016, okay?
Right.
That should tell you plenty.
Even on the anti-Garrett bandwagon since we started doing this Student Game Report back in 2014, 2013.
That sounds
there
right.
There you go. It's weird because I guess we should kind of admire this from Jerry Jones, like show some loyalty. We should admire that to some degree. I guess every owner you would say is a lot more cutthroat than Jerry Jones, and Jerry Jones at least is showing some sort of he done a lot for his franchise, this and that, as a player, as a coach, this and that.
What Dean Spanos has done with the Chargers. We'll put it that way.
And don't get me wrong, I am not a Cowboy fan by any stretch of imagination. I'm a Giants fan, obviously. Don't shut up with the Patriots. But I've always said one of the things about Jerry Jones, even though I will always be critical of how he operates with the Cowboys, at least he cares about his franchise. There are owners who don't give a shit. That's
correct. That's thoroughly accurate. I mean, all you got to do is look at the Bengals for that.
Oh, God, absolutely. Speaking of Bengals, Sam Weiss died tonight. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, Rip. And, a fantastic individual, but I mean, he was like in his 80s, right? I mean.
No, actually, from what I read, was 73.
Forgive me, I got mixed up with David Stern. Also, an unfortunate loss.
He was 77, I think. David Stern.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. But in any case, no. I mean, listen, both guys, huge impact on their sports. I mean, if you can make the Bengals successful, that says something to you. And if you could take a game international from having your finals run on tape delay, where you could go from a world where John Koncak as a center at one point in his life was making more money than Michael Jordan in a salary.
That's correct.
It's all that.
Hey, man, John Koncak had a good jump shot. I'm joking.
See, like, I actually once had ignorant fans on Facebook give me a hard time when I said that for his day, Charles Barkley was versatile from three. And they were like, oh, yeah, he shoots real great. And they started throwing all these stats up about it. I'm like, you children don't understand. That was awesome back then for a big man.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I'm not gonna start any controversy about whose page that was on, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, but some of the statements from the millennials doing that crap is about as dumb as saying, oh, I don't know, Mitchell Trubisky's a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. But I digress.
Well, he'll be back next year as a quarterback of the Bears. Your thoughts on that?
Who, Mitchell Trubisky?
Yeah, that's been announced according to Matt Nagy. He'll be back next year as a starter.
Sir, what is the kiss of death for starting quarterbacks? He's going to be our starter next year. You know better.
That's true. That's a good point. Speaking of coaches, this past Monday was our annual Black Monday. This year's Black Monday, 2020 edition, 2019 edition. Well, it was 2020. Who we lose? So we lost. Obviously, we lost Jay Gruden during the year. We lost obviously the soup kitchen himself, Freddie Kitchens. We also lost. Who else got fired this week?
Wait.
Who?
Your boy.
Oh, the guy who I didn't even hire in the first place.
No, you didn't. I think we were both down on that hire. And which, by the way, side note, Patriots fan, how bad a bandwagon fan are you when you're abandoning the Patriots the first time they have to play in the wild card round and jump over to a garbage organization like the Giants? You're an idiot.
Wow. Moving on. That's mean. Well, first, let's go into
I knew at some point the Patriots shtick would end, and I've been keeping that one in the back pocket for when it did, so I just kind of threw that alley-oop up to myself off the backboard and dunked that on your head. So.
Let's be clear here, buddy. I'm a Brady guy, not a Patriots guy. Come on now.
Well, you're still disappointed, aren't you? Anyways.
Yeah.
You went from Brady to Daniel Jones. You're a shit.
I'm living the life, man. Freddie Kitchens, obviously the disappointing year for the Browns. Lots of expectations, high expectations rather. Remember one point during the offseason that they were like one of the top 4 or 5 teams, Super Bowl odds this year, to make the Super Bowl this year. which I thought was ridiculous anyway in itself. But a lot of hype. You get Odell Beckham, and the defense improves and all that, and Baker Mayfield, second year, and then the whole. You can argue they regressed this year from last year.
I could argue that Baker Mayfield did, certainly.
Mm-hmm. But this was the right move, in my opinion. Kitchen wasn't ready for this job. It's just simple.
Listen. How do you have, and listen, I'm a Beckham guy. I'm not dissing him per se, but how do you have the biggest ego in football with the biggest ego at quarterback in the NFL with the guy who was shipped out of Miami because of his ego and expect a rookie coach to operate all this with a limited running back support and a garbage offensive line? I'm not even addressing the defense because the defense is going to be tried entirely too much in this scenario,
right?
Where the skill players are left out to dry that much with a vegetarian team. Which, by the way, watch out, Dolphin fans. If they draft the way you want them to, they're going to be the Cleveland Browns next year.
Oh, okay. So there was rumors about Urban Meyer being courted. But according to Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, that's not happening. I heard they already spoke to Mike McCarthy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, keep going. I'm sorry. I thought you were asking about Meyer. Keep going.
No, Meyer. What's his face? Haslam already addressed that this morning, saying that that's not going to happen.
I could have told you that.
Yeah, of course.
Why don't you call up Bill Cowher while you're at it, for Christ's sake?
What about Bill Cowher? No, I'm just joking. So obviously that's going to be I mean, you would say that's a coveted job, but after this year, I mean, the word unstable, like, that's just a minor point of the Browns. I mean, unstable is putting it nicely for the Cleveland Browns. Can
you help me with something? You referred to Cleveland as a coveted job. Bleeping how?
No. I didn't say that. I said it was maybe a year ago, not after this year. I mean, obviously that's. I mean, unstable is the middle name.
Right. How is that a coveted job? It's a garbage franchise.
I agree with you 100%.
Where you got to play the Steelers twice a year and the Ravens twice a year. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at you. Whoever said that is a raging idiot.
Right. Well, it's not a coverage, in my opinion. It was maybe a year ago because of the talent we all thought could be overcome. But obviously, after this year, come on.
Wait. You're trying to tell me that talented teams can have bad situations? Why don't I just move to Dallas and mull this up? Oh, snap. Anyways.
That's right. The other firing this week was Pat Shurmur. Thank God. No, I'm not one for wanting people to lose their jobs. I hate. Obviously, it sucks. From that point of view. But come on. I mean, I was not a fan this time from the beginning as a Giants fan, of course. And to me, the guy was petty. Always complained. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the hire. He's a better OC than he is a head coach. And I don't know. The Giants right now are the Browns. This is it's funny. This decade starts to win the Super Bowl 2 years in, and then after that they've gone every year but one with a playoff appearance. No player appearance but 1 year. That's it.
Well, I mean, a couple more things too. The offensive line just hasn't been the same since the Super Bowl wins. And I'm not saying I expect you to field a Super Bowl caliber offensive line every year. They age and they get signed away because other teams realize they need them. But yeah, that's been an issue too.
Yeah. I've heard Mike McCarthy is interested in there. I've heard Matt Rule from Baylor could be a possibility.
You don't want Matt Rule.
Why that?
And let me tell you why. He's coming from the Big 12. What do the Giants need to do to be successful from this point on? Play a significant defense, right? Mm-hmm. You said that just as I did, too.
Yeah. Jinx.
In stereo, bitches. Booyah.
That's right.
We don't have to make it a combat, and that time that was a team up. Listen, the reason why I'm this tall is so people can throw me the ball and I can dunk. Unfortunately, my knees are too short to dunk. But the point is this. Some gimmicky-ass offense is going to win the day in that division, in my opinion. As much as people want to be critical of Philadelphia, I believe that Doug Peterson crushes that with his group. As much as people want to be critical of the Redskins. If he's playing against Jack Del Rio, spoiler alert, that's a whole other problem,
Mm-hmm. I would like. I actually initially wanted Ron Rivera just because he's a name, but Mike McCarthy, I take that.
Mike McCarthy, I think, would be a fantastic fit in New York, especially sans Favre. Or check that, sans Rodgers.
Yeah.
And that's just where I sit. They need to go back to basics, and I think McCarthy would enable that. Not to mention, I believe that the Giants have a better staff to scout and make good draft choices, and that we could truly see if the problem with McCarthy in Green Bay was the ability to lure people to Wisconsin to play.
Right. How about Doug Marrone actually rumored to be fired? Then SI puts out things the other night saying he's going to be fired. They denied it. They denied the reports the team did, and all of a sudden Marrone has a job again.
I'm for it. As much as I don't feel like that Tom Coughlin was the issue football-wise, but more morale-wise. I got to tell you, I'm pro Marrone keeping his job. But the reason for that is more because I feel like this year, listen, I know the Jags are sorry often for many reasons. This year, they very foolishly invested in a guy that every time he's become a starter has crumbled, right? Let's not dance with Foles, but he got beat out by Uncle Rico. The facts of the case are those, and they're not in dispute. Okay.
You mean Gardner Minshew, of course, for listeners at home.
Right, Uncle Rico. Why are you repeating me? Anyways.
Go ahead.
Go. I know you did that for the listeners at home. I just had to make that joke. But
it's okay.
The punchline being this. The Jags need a lot more growth and development at the skill positions. I feel like their offensive line was better this year because they had fewer injuries. But, give me one beef man from the draft. They're all their defensive line, assuming everybody stays in, is still fantastic. I know everyone's going to fret about their DBs. Got to tell you, as long as they have A.J. Boye there, they're going to be pretty decent. Let me see some skill guys that will actually show up, which they're a year better, so that could actually happen. And, maybe get me one big playmaker who either on the ground or on the outside. I can't see on the ground. They got Fournette. Give me one playmaker on the outside, either at tight end or receiver, and maybe you got something here. I mean, it's not like the AFC South is a strong division.
Now, in terms of the Falcons, are you surprised Dan Quinn didn't get the boot after a 1-7 start? They actually played better at the end of the year. I was worried that maybe it wouldn't be enough. Then they beat San Francisco on a fluke. I mean, I don't know. They play better football at the end of the year. Are you surprised he's still there?
I am surprised, but not for the reason you're thinking.
Okay.
I am surprised that the butt that he kicked at the end of the year, of course you bring up the Niners because you're a hater ass, but let's not forget that they also crushed the Saints. Your precious bleeding Saints bandwagoner.
Whoa, what? I hate the Saints. What are you talking about?
Have you read your power rankings lately? Bullshit.
It is what it is, buddy. Just deal with it.
Not been the second best team in the league for weeks, and it was proven to you. I'm just saying. Moving on.
You say a lot.
I've been to get that out, by the way. It did feel good. That's also what she said. Moving on.
Oh, she did say that. She did. She really did. But obviously next year's the all-in year. Either you make the playoffs, whatever, or do something significant, or he's done, right? Next year. Gotta be.
That's going to depend on a few things, right? Like, if they suffer, I'm going to say a Matt Ryan injury, that might change it. But I think that's the only thing that could prevent him if he misses the playoff from losing his job. I'm with you. NFC South's a tough division, folks.
Well, it wasn't this year. This year was kind of crappy.
Why though? Think about that. Why was that division off the rails a touch?
Although I will say that I was correct on one prediction this year with me and Zach Degenerate. I told him that the Buccaneers will be over 6.5 wins this year. He thought it was crazy, and they got there.
I didn't think you were crazy. I just didn't. Listen, I wouldn't have called you crazy. I just would have called you optimistic. Like, here's my tagline for that. What if I told you 30 for 30 wasn't just an ESPN series, but a stat line, where quarterbacks throw great touchdowns on pace with Peyton Manning in yardage, but also throw just as many pick sixes as Matt Schaub. Welcome to Jameis Winston.
And guess what? He'll still be a relatively coveted quarterback.
Oh, of course. Quarterbacks create desperation. Let's not be stupid.
That's right.
I mean, just as an example, if like the Colts might show interest in him, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins took a chance on him. God, for their sake, I hope not. I wouldn't be surprised if, and I'm just doing this from the hip, folks, just so everybody's aware, I wouldn't be surprised if Denver takes a look at him. Probably not if John Elway's still at the helm. I wouldn't be surprised if San Diego, or check that, L.A., the Chargers.
No, it's San Diego. Go ahead. Fuck your name, Spanish.
If Stafford retires, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions take him.
Retires? Whoa, what?
I'm getting random on you at that point. But, I think he makes sense in Chicago. Boy, that would piss G. Stelio off.
Oh, I love it.
So, from the hip, I could probably think of some others, but that's where I'll stay.
Okay. Let's do the quarterbacks real quick also. Eli Manning has said, quote, he's done the Giants. And that he has not decided on retirement, whatever it may be. So it sounds like he's open to playing somewhere else, but that he did not enjoy playing backup from week 3 on this year.
Well, yeah. If what he was asked is, if the Giants asked you to come back as a backup, would you be willing to do that? And his response was, nah, probably not. And I respect that. Listen,
I do too.
We're talking about him going to another franchise. BS, I think he's retired. And the sad thing is, it might be because he's forced out, but I doubt it. Like, by the way, can you imagine all the Kaepernick supporters that would precisely lose their minds if Eli Manning got a job somewhere and started? Holy shit.
Well, I mean, they probably lose their shit, but the Kaepernick thing, I think that's dead now. I think that's over.
Oh, no way. No way.
I don't know. You'll always have a little section in the corner of people, shouting about Kaepernick.
You're gonna have,
but overall, no one cares anymore. Really, no one cares anymore.
No, that's incorrect. You're gonna have a spike twice a year on Kaepernick, and his camp is gonna damn sure make sure it happens.
Guess what? It ain't impacting ratings though. The NFL got the shit together this year. They're back. Well,
and Kaepernick didn't impact ratings last year either. It was other items that people just chose to ignore.
Well, like I said, I just feel like people have tuned out after the stunt he did in October. I think people just tuned out Kaepernick. Honestly, most people, for the record.
Well, yeah, I agree. And more of a side note, if he had played it correctly, he could have actually gotten it to leverage in his direction. But
I agree.
He didn't, so we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I said before your story that for Eli Manning, retirement was the only thing on the table for him, because I think at this point, number one, I don't think he wants to play anywhere else. I don't think he wants to leave where he lives at anyway in Jersey, apparently, where he's happy where he's at now. He's not somebody I think that's seeking longevity at this point now, like Peyton Manning was, I guess, to some degree. I think he's happy where he's at in his life.
Where would he even fit? Let's be honest. What garbage teams out there actually have a good offensive line?
Well, you mentioned Denver. You mentioned teams like Denver, teams like who is the quarterback right now? Like in a short-term gap quarterback right now.
It keeps changing because of injury. I can't give you a good answer on that.
I mean, I'll say this much: there's less options this year than were last year.
Yeah, okay. No, that's fair. But, I mean, yeah, going into it, Denver was Flacco, right? And then he got hurt or something.
Yeah.
I mean, does that imply that staff could see Eli and be like, yeah, he's better than Flacco? When you put it that way, I can't.
Barely moves the needle, though, at this point. And I love Eli Manning, but Eli Manning right now at this point barely moves the needle.
The only thing I think that might give Eli the twinge of the possibility of playing is Kurt Warner's story, where he played with the Giants and looked like he was dead and then ended up in Arizona.
So you're saying Arizona? No.
I'm saying Kurt Warner's story is what.
Oh, the story. No, the thing is, Kurt Warner was a lot younger though.
Well, and moreover, the quarterback position is changing in the NFL. The quality of offensive line has just dropped dramatically.
Yeah, you have to be mobile in this league now. You have to be able to at least move the pocket. Daniel Jones can do that at least for the Giants.
Yeah, definitely.
So all right, I think he retires. So anyway, Wildcard Weekend's here. You excited?
I mean, listen, what I used to say back when I wrote the Matchup Mania about the playoffs was it's the bittersweet time of year where you get the best football, but the season's almost done.
When did you last write the Matchup Mania? It's been 2 years, right?
I think I finished that in 2016 as well.
Oh, wow. 3 years. Wow. 4 years. No, 2020. So, yeah. You don't miss it?
No, it would. No, it would only be 3 years because you're going into the playoffs at this point, and I still wrote into the playoffs, so it's only 3.
Okay, but still, do you miss it?
The Matchup Mania?
Yeah.
I miss doing it, but there's no way in hell I could fit it in.
You're too busy.
I mean, listen, at this point, and this is going to be cocky, listen, at this point, you got to either get me a butt ton of views that'll get me paid or pay me to do the Matchup Mania just because I don't. You're right.
I'm with you, man, 100%. So let's go to the Saturday game real quick. I find all these games intriguing to some degree. Like, in other words, there is no like normally you'll say the Saturday 4:30 game will be like the garbage throwaway game of the wildcard games. Not this year. I'm into this Bills Texans game actually.
Is there a throw game? Let me ask this of you. Let me flip this on its head and interview you for this question.
Go ahead.
Is there a throwaway game this weekend? I can't argue.
No, there's none. Zero.
Like the closest you might get is Eagles Seahawks. Only because Russell Cantankerous Wilson is a friggin' god in some situations. By the way, side note, is there any possible way you could be closer to victory and not get it than what we witnessed on Sunday night? I'm glad we could curse on your show because I'm going to say, holy fucking shit, which is exactly what I texted you when I saw how that game ended. Like, the moment they called the center for that 15-yard bullshit, and they had 3rd and 17, and I knew that Rusty was going to get the ball, I thought the Niners were screwed. And then I said, you cannot get closer to winning a football game than what we saw. To cram that Rams-Titans Super Bowl up your butt in 2000, okay? Listen, that was close, but this was closer.
You had takes for days on the text, by the way, during the end of that game. By the way, you were, word for word, you did say holy fucking shit, okay? And then you said you maintained Rusty did his job, for the record.
He did his goddamn job. That's a fact, folks.
If Rusty had Lamar Jackson's tight ends, they win that game.
Yeah, I did say that. Wow, I'm smart. Anyway.
You're good. You're good. But Texans-Bills game, intriguing. Gotta be honest with you, man. You know, I'm. You think I'm nuts for saying this, but I'm leading Buffalo here, man. I'm leaning Buffalo. You're
not the first person with at least requisite knowledge that I've heard say that. I think the problem is me. I can't. Every time I look at Buffalo, and there's a lot of favorable stuff. I've been talking to our good friend Danny Thompson, and he gave me an excellent breakdown as to why he feels like the Bills are going to win, and it was very well reasoned. And he's like, well, why don't you think the Bills will win? And I'm like, I can't answer you. Other than J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson, I got a whole lot of nothing for you. But I can't do it.
I can tell you why, in my opinion, real quick. I just don't trust Houston. Like, I trust Deshaun Watson. J.J. Watt obviously is going to be playing this game most likely. I think was he cleared to play this game? He was cleared, right? They're not going to have Will Fuller, which is a big difference, how they match with Hopkins and whatnot. I just don't trust Houston.
According to what I heard from Danny Thompson, Fuller is playing.
Oh, okay. Well, I heard from a report today saying that he's unlikely to play, but he's trying to give it a go. That's not the report I heard from.
That's the injury report. That could be possible too, man. I mean, listen, injuries are tough to predict, but I respect that Will Fuller's a factor.
Right.
Great, man. Like John Brown and Josh Allen doing their thing. And listen, let's not leave out Devin Singletary, who I have seen in person. And folks, let me tell you, there is a reason why he was one of the best running backs in the country in 2018.
I know. I'm not going to put it on the line and say Buffalo's not right. But if you ask me now who I'm leaning towards right now, I'm leaning Bills in this game just because of the trust factor.
Do not do that shit, folks. We're telling you right now.
Who are you picking in this game?
I got the Texans, and I told you why already. It's impossible for me to pick the Bills.
So I respect that.
If somehow or another they find themselves playing the Patriots, which I'm pretty sure the only way that could happen is actually no. That could happen next week depending on how it shakes out.
Right, it could, yes, but it has to be something that happen, obviously.
If they both win, well, the punchline is. I'm more likely to pick the Bills to beat the Patriots in the third game because beating a team a third time is tough than winning this Texans game. I'll leave it at that.
Speaking of those Patriots, they play at 8 o'clock, 8:15, the same night, Saturday night, against the Tennessee Titans. They are right now 5-point favorites in this game. I said before I even knew the seedings were official.
Yes.
On Sunday, I said on Twitter that New England would avoid there's two reasons why New England wants to avoid losing to the Dolphins. Number one, obviously playing on Wildcard Weekend, but also it's likely that Tennessee is the worst thing that can happen to them. Because if it was Pittsburgh this weekend, it's one thing. Okay, fine, you beat Pittsburgh. But Tennessee is a matchup you don't want.
Right.
Against this Patriots team, anyway.
Right. Excuse me. Also, let me add in a couple more things, EJ Christian. Who has the best QB rating in the NFL?
Ryan Tannehill?
Ryan bleeping Tannehill. Who won the rushing title, Ernest Christian?
Derrick Henry.
Derrick bleeping Henry. Sir, that is called a balanced offense, which, by the way, I told y'all motherfuckers back in 2018. Yeah, that's right. I just said it.
You just said it.
2018. Late 2017, when I first got on board with the DolphinsWire serving under my man, Antoine Staley, I wrote the article and hinted several times within other articles about how Tannehill's not the problem and the fact the only protection he had might rival a busted condom. Okay? No, I didn't use those words, but, then the fact he's got protection and doing well, there's guys out there like, G. Stelio who don't know how to analyze quarterbacks because he's a Bears fan who want to crap all over Tannehill. But this protection is real, folks. Moreover, that run support, not something he's seen to that caliber in any part in his career. Understand, EJ Christian, when Ryan Tannehill came into the league, you saw the hard knocks with the Miami Dolphins, right?
I sure did.
There's a line in there from an offensive lineman who was a member of that team at the time. Hey, kid, it looks like you're starting. Don't fuck it up. Do you know the name of this lineman, sir? You could probably figure it out with the context.
Well, that being said,
it's not exactly like I'm making it incognito for you.
No, of course, no. But that being said, though, with this game here, I again, Tennessee, the way they play, if they play to what they've been doing the last second half of the year, if they play to potential, this could be the end of it. And I mean, look, I know we said it for the last couple of years, but the Patriots, this is the end of the dynasty. It's the end of the dynasty.
Let me tell you,
it really feels that within the next week or two, it's all over.
Well, first of all, let me address that quickly. That's cute that you say that. You're the knee-jerk specialist. That's your job, and I respect that.
Right.
I'm not even talking trash. It's what you do, and I'm not dissing it.
Mm-hmm.
I will make fun of you sometimes when it's egregiously stupid. But for my money, it is impossible for me to talk about dynasties dwindling until such time they fail to make the playoffs. Okay. Could that happen next year? Maybe. I don't know who was going to take the throne in the AFC East, but that's a whole other question.
Well, my thing with the whole, I may have discussed with you on text before a couple weeks ago. The reason I feel this way is not just what's going on the field right now. It's what's to come in the coming months. with who they keep moving forward. You know, there's a lot of speculation about Tom Brady not being here next year. Now, granted, Tom Brady's not really isn't really that good anymore. At least he's not certainly the same guy he was 2 years ago. But that's still a big piece. There is no segue to the future. They're not bad enough to draft a quarterback high enough to impact the team in the immediate, unless Lamar Jackson, of course. That's an anomaly, of course. I just think that all the factors, all the stars aligning now. They put all the eggs in this basket to win as much as possible, and they've done that, by the way. So it's worked for them. But we knew this time was coming. The question is now: is this time ending this Saturday or next Saturday in Kansas City?
It comes for any franchise. So to say we knew this was coming is a little bit unfair. What I will say, and I have three takes that probably need to be further fleshed out, but I'm going to make them real quick here. We have seen signs of decay from the Patriots throughout the year. Hell, going into last year, Brady did not look like the same quarterback throwing the football and hasn't for a bit. He's just been relatively well protected. Now he has even fewer weapons this year than last, and 10-7 victory in a Super Bowl isn't even good.
Yeah, was it 13-3 or whatever, some low-scoring shit?
It sucked, is the point. I get defensive battles, and I liked the first Giants-Patriots Super Bowl as a defensive battle. No, this was not a defensive battle. It was a comedy of errors. That all being said. And Trey Wingo could suck it if he doesn't like that. Anyways. But the second thing is, here's the reason why Brady's going to go to another team before he retires. You and I have talked at length about how Joe Montana is the actual GOAT and you're an idiot. But
that's mean. Why? That is mean. No, but go ahead.
I make that joke, but what's the one argument I make you can never come back from?
Which is what?
Joe Montana's had success with two different teams,
Kansas City.
As Peyton Manning. I think somewhere in Brady's inflated ego, and I don't mean that to say it as offense, you can't be successful in that situation without having a huge ego. Let me be honest. I'm not saying that as something to degrade Brady. Hell, at no point in this conversation have I degraded Brady. I've only talked trash on you. But
true.
But I think part of him wants to try another franchise so he could put that belt around his waist. And third, someone on the Titans team is not going to play to their full potential against the Patriots. It's because of Bill Belichick's style. What does he do, Ernest Christian, other than look at video? That's a joke. I don't really think he
takes away your best weapon and dares you to beat you somewhere else.
If you take away Derrick Henry, he's got A.J. Brown. If you take away A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry's going to run all over your sorry ass. I mean, and God help them, the luckiest thing for the Patriots is that Delaney Walker is not back from injury.
I gotta be honest with you though. Like I all week long I've been leaning Titans on this, but so is everybody else, and that makes me uncomfortable.
That used to, but then when the Patriots lost their second game in a row during the season, it made them the most human I've seen them in a while.
I mean, let's not forget they're still 12-4. I mean, I know schedule and all that, but we're talking shit about a team that won 12 games this year again.
We are talking shit about a team that won 12 games.
Oh, by the way, won more games this year than they did last year. For the record.
And by the way, of course they won more games this last year. It was a weaker schedule this year.
No, I agree. I'm just saying, though. It's still a schedule.
We talk about weaker schedules. Folks, what are their losses? It's to the team that this time last year was tanking for Tua. All right, bitches?
That's true.
Anyways. No, man. But I'm with you on questioning the Patriots' ability to lose this game. I will not call them a fallen dynasty yet. To your point, they got so many wins and they have that to hang on their wall. And who knows? They may still be able to, as long as they continue to win divisions. Mm-hmm. I think they still keep the dynasty alive.
That being said, who wins this game?
I got the Titans.
Really? Okay. And Sunday games. First game is the Vikings going to New Orleans with the Saints. I gotta be honest with you, Kyle. I hate to say it. I hope the Vikings win this game. I don't see it. In fact, I think the Saints were up to score in this game. I think they're pissed they didn't get the bye week. I think they're pissed about the Vikings game from 2 years ago. I think they're pissed about getting screwed last year. Pissed about everything. Saints fans are annoying as shit. But I feel like this team will fucking slaughter the Vikings. The Vikings stumble to the end of the year, to be honest with you. That Packers loss week 16, honestly, was a pretty bad loss.
Can we talk about the Vikings stumbling at the end of the year as basically a yearly tradition? Seriously. No, listen, man. I think you said everything right there to the exact reason the Vikings will lose this football game. However, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm going to evoke what I call the reverse Cornwallis defense, right? Why did the American Revolutionary Army, the Continental Army, defeat General Cornwallis? Because he had help that they had help he wasn't ready for, and they used his ego against him. At least that's how it's portrayed historically. I don't know if that's accurate or not. Who cares? That's the point. The punchline is the Saints may find themselves so angry that they overthink the contest. That's the only way I see the.
I mean that I can't see. That's the key for me.
Well, right. I know I'm not beefing the Saints at all. Other than the fact that you constantly put them at second when they were third or fourth. What I see from the Saints is that they're a good football team, and I'm going to say this too, controversially. You might have leaned towards it yourself. The best thing that happened to that offense was Drew Brees' injury, so he had time to rest, and then Teddy Bridgewater filled the gap, simply put. Absolutely.
All right.
Saints win, of course, right? All right. Final game, of course. This is a game I'm having a hard time predicting, to be honest with you. Seahawks going to Philadelphia against the Eagles. Eagles ended the year on a 4-game winning streak, bouncing back with countless injuries. Carson Wentz on a surging way in. Seahawks could have had a NFC West title on Sunday instead of losing the
millimeter line, homie.
The Niners. The millimeter line, right? I gotta tell you, this game is hard to predict because these two teams, in my opinion, right now as they stand, both mirror each other in the sense that both these teams have injuries littered across the roster. And, common sense will say, well, take the Seahawks. They won 11 games. They've actually been a better road team this year than the home. Why not? They got Russell Wilson. The problem is Philadelphia's playing some good football, albeit against really shitty teams on the stretch. But, hey, it is what it is. You still win the games. And they're at home, too, on top of that. I don't know, man. Like, my heart says Seattle. My head says Philadelphia.
That is some of the worst analysis you've made in 2020. Yeah, that's right.
How do
you keep going after they have Russell can kick your ass Wilson, and then you keep analyzing? What the hell is left? Listen, I'm not trying to tell you that the Mercedes Wentz is a car you don't drive, but when you have Russell Corvette Wilson, bitches, please. It's the Seahawks. This is the easiest game to pick. It's the easiest one.
The problem is, here's a problem, Kyle. Kyle has a problem. And it goes to what I've been saying all year long. I don't think they're any good anyway. I think Russell Wilson's amazing. It's why I have the MVP most of the year. I think Seattle's is mediocre at best. Without Wilson, they're 2-14.
Okay, sure. And the Colts without Peyton Manning were 2-14. What the fuck is your point?
I don't know. I just feel I don't know. This was on a roll. Seattle. Look, the optics. I don't know, man. It's weird optics. I don't know. Seattle. Look, that loss to Arizona gave me cause for pause.
Hold on. Be smarter than this.
I'm gonna say right now.
Christian. The divisional game is only step one. The reason why they lost that game to the Cardinals is twofold. A, starting left tackle was out. Their top two running backs were out, and the Cardinals are good enough on defense where you have to be balanced on offense, and they found a way to make it difficult for Russell Karnak Wilson to do his thing.
Karnak.
It's not a hard C. I can't do that. Anyway.
Seattle.
Fuck it. I'm picking Seattle.
Okay, carry on.
Fuck it. I'm picking Seattle.
Shortest debate ever. Oh. But yeah, the other reason they lost to the Cardinals was a guy that the Dolphins were too stupid to hold on to in Kenyon Drake. But yeah, I got the Seahawks all day, homie.
That's true. Yes, that's a good point. I don't know. Phillies, I mean, they've been playing some good ball last couple weeks. Carson Wentz is back to the guy I thought he'd be years ago. It's why Carson Wentz is showing the reason why Nick Foles is gone. I don't know why I was doing an argument to begin with, because Nick Foles to me was an average quarterback at best.
Hey, my dude from WAXC in Vero Beach, Chris Pirtle, made it a segment for the two of us to go through Foles v. Wentz throughout a portion of the offseason, and he was on the Foles side of the bar. And at some point tomorrow, when I call into his show, I'm going to have to go to work on him. It's going to be tough because I like him, but anyway.
Do it. Drop the hammer.
I'm going to attribute you to that.
Anyway, Kyle. Yes. I set you up. Anyway, Kyle.
Hey, listen, first of all, I love what you're doing, that you're doing what you enjoy, watching a bunch of sweaty dudes in tights choreographically grip each other. That's fantastic.
Between you and Zach, I swear to God.
To be honest, I probably respect you more than Zach does. You just invite me on your show to constantly talk shit, and on you. And the other piece is, I'm a little bit, I'm honestly a little bit bitter that you chose wrestling over me, and our sports podcast marriage was spread a little thin there a little bit, but
Whoa! You think? Wait, no. You think because I chose?
It's because my butt's too big.
No,
honestly, no. I know it's your work schedule, dude. I'm talking shit.
Sundays.
Come on now.
What to say? No. The wrestling
bit thoroughly with your goddamn sentimental bullshit. I hope you're happy.
Yeah, make time for you, brother. You know that. Come on.
No, that'd be great.
Try this again next week, hopefully.
I kind of hold my own with basketball, sort of too. And
so, yeah, it's kind of crazy, huh? Third language bullshit.
Listen,
last 8 years I've known you.
On the show talking about Old Mother Hibbett 4 years ago, you loved that shit. Shut your butt.
Yeah, I'm happy for you, man. You're growing finally. Hey, by the way,
go Heat, bitch. That's right.
They won again tonight. Beat Toronto.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Anyway,
joy, privilege. Listen, man, I'm busy enough. Have the people find me on my Facebook page, at, the Student of the Game on Facebook, for God's sakes. On Instagram, the SOTG. On Twitter, the SOTG. Hilarity by Default, Captain and Company, Beyond the Buzzer, Sports Junkies, SportsMediaPass.com with BlueHQ Media.
Jesus.
I said hilarity by default, I hope. Yes. Default.
Yeah.
Demos misplaced his priorities and actually traveled to celebrate Christmas with some of his friends. I'm kidding. No, he was out for the. He was out for the holiday. We will be back up and running. And listen, we're up over 300 subs and doing good things, man. Patreon page is coming, folks, so look out for that.
Nice.
Yeah,
awesome.
Man. Oh yeah, and bowl games. Shrine game coming up.
Lots of bowl games, dude.
I really was.
Were you at the Michigan?
I was at the Citrus
game?
Bowl. I went to the coaches presser the day before. I asked a question of both Jim Harbaugh and Nick Saban, and I watched Saban dress down some draft analyst who had no business going to this thing but asked a question. It was brilliant. I also watched Nick Saban, after his victory, dress down another guy trying to act like he could get something. Let's put it this way. You remember in the movie A Few Good Men when they come at Tom Cruise and they're like, oh, just get it from him. Now, in the movie, that goes well. What we saw when he asked about Tua's status after asking him his initial question as a follow-up was what really would have happened when Lieutenant Lionel Cathy went after Nathan Jessup on the stand. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. Folks trying big time savings. Come on now. You know what's up. Shit. The GOAT. I'm not a Bama guy, but he's a GOAT. All right, Kyle. We'll try to do this next week as well, too. Hopefully.
Oh, wait. I got to find the damn bell.
You got it.
You have have any other guests with their own effects? No, you don't. Peace out, bitch.
Fuck. Later. Okay, as promised, on the line here now with friend of pod, my good old friend Boston Jack, resident Patriots fan, who actually called to come on the show a few days ago after the Dolphins beat the Patriots on the last game of the season. To say Jack is concerned about this team, the Patriots, will be putting it mildly. Jack, what's up? First off, Jack, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. I don't know if concerned is the right word. It's I've had a couple. Today's Thursday, so I've had 4 days to chew on this. Usually in 24 hours. Yeah, usually in 24 hours, I've become the calm, cool, laid back, rational guy that I am. But 4 days later, and I don't think that people realize fully the magnitude of what is going on and what could be transpiring 48 hours from now. I mean, this quite possibly could be the last time Tom Brady ever plays a home game at Gillette Stadium in 48 hours, and it's hardly being talked about. And it's a very strong possibility. I mean, people are I don't know. It's hard to gauge. I mean, of course, here we are. We're in, Florida, southern Florida. This is going on. I have a lot of friends and relatives up there, and I monitor the Boston stations to get a feel of what's going on. I don't know if it's really being talked about, to the extent that this could be it. This could be the end of not just the dynasty of an era. And the way it went down with the loss to the Dolphins, and that's just really the beginning. Because let's be realistic. Of course, I'm a Patriots fan, and you, of course, you're probably a bigger Brady fan than I am. You don't like the Patriots, but you like
That is
Brady
accurate because the guest earlier in this podcast accused me of being a Patriots fan because of Tom Brady. Just saying. So yes, that is pretty accurate.
but the thing is, if Brady goes, that's the heart and soul of this team for the last 20 years. What happens? What is next year? What is 2020 New England Patriots football without a number 12, taking the snaps? Do people realize that? Sure, they're not going to win a Super Bowl. You can't win a Super Bowl every year, and the hopes were high after the first 8 games. The defense was all overhyped. They were beating up on these JV teams, and they were, calling it the greatest defense of all time. You can only play who's on the schedule, but they really overhyped it. The 8-0 really wasn't as strong as you might think. Sure, they were number 1 on the power rankings the first 8 weeks because a lot of that was based on their reputation. They were the defending Super Bowl champions. They got off to a great start, but they really didn't play anybody. And I really wonder if they fooled that many people. Sure, the Patriots faithful were thinking, yeah, this is another undefeated season. Shut up. Don't say that. You don't even want an undefeated season. But I think the way the season got started, there was nowhere to go but down.
What point of the year? Let me ask you this: what point of the year did you get worried? Because this is funny because we hear it's about the demise of the Patriots. Forgetting the fact that, and look, we know why. Yes, the schedule and all that. We're discussing the Patriots as though they won only 9 games. They won 12-4 this year. They actually won a game more this year than last year, and last year they won the fucking Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? So, at what point did you say to yourself, "Oh, this is weird. This could be the end"?
Well, I think it was kind of like you're watching the other screen, and you're watching what's going on in Baltimore, and you're seeing this guy just take it to a whole nother level. And you're watching this guy like, how is anybody going to stop this guy? it's his Super Bowl to win, and you knew that 8-9 games into the season, watching him. I mean, they didn't go undefeated their first 8 games because they were getting their stuff, getting their act together, pretty much, centering the offense around Lamar Jackson. And by the time they faced off for that game, even though the Patriots were favored in that game, looking back on it now, it seems silly. How the hell were they favored to win that game? Their reputation, the fact that they were the Super Bowl champions, and that Jackson and the Ravens were still untested. But that game was in Baltimore.
They were in respect.
Right, out of respect. You knew there was no way they were going to win that game. And Baltimore held serve, and that was it. That game basically passed the torch. I mean, now I know that it's only one season. You're not going to give the kid the Super Bowl, and he is going to win the MVP. I mean, the only question is, will it be unanimous? He's going to be the MVP. That team is looking really good. Can they keep it together? And going forward, I mean, obviously not going to put him in the Hall of Fame after 1 year. But if he wins a Super Bowl this year and an MVP,
it's pretty sick.
And add that to the fact that Brady's not going to be in New England next year.
Are you on that? Like you feel no matter how this year ends, this is it for Brady?
It looks like all indications are point. I mean, yeah, everything was circa. I mean, if you want to look at it from from a legal point of view, I mean, everything coming together, all the circumstantial evidence, with Brady selling his house and all the stuff that had gone on in the past. I mean, he's not under contract for the first time. All these things add up. I mean, you add up enough, circumstantial facts, and then with the way things went down in Miami, I mean, the game in New England against Miami, you're scratching your head. I mean, you and I talked about this, like, what happened at the end of the first half? That's uncharacteristic of him. And it's been like it all goes back to the Super Bowl against Philadelphia, where it's like, what is he doing? I mean, he's earned the right to do things without being questioned. He's above reproach. But
agreed.
These things are starting to add up now. I mean, that's never been answered for, and it kind of got swept under the rug when they won the Super Bowl last year. All was forgiven, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions. What happened in that Super Bowl? You just leave it on the table? How many coaches can get away with leaving a Super Bowl on the table? And then, the fact that they never replaced Gronk. I mean, that question was never answered. 16 games now heading into the playoffs. You just don't replace a Gronk. You go out and sign a 38-year-old, washed-up, suspended tight end, and then you don't even sign. I mean, you don't even bring him on the roster when his suspension is up, and then you still never fill that position. You bring in Antonio Brown for a game, and okay, I get it. He did some bad things, but who's to judge him? Robert Happy Ending Kraft? I mean, come on.
Who Robert Happy Ending Kraft?
He's really not the kind of guy that can take the high road and say, yeah, we have to release Antonio Brown. I mean, I get it. There's a lot of distraction. Is he the right fit? And the whole Josh Gordon thing, obviously they knew something going on there. Mm-hmm. So all these questions, and now here we are. We're going into a game, a wild card game, where we're favored. And even if we win, it's so I mean, do you really think the Patriots can go into Kansas City and win a road game with that team we saw against Miami on Sunday?
I mean, likely not. I have to see how they look on Saturday, though. I got to tell you, I was talking to Kyle earlier in the podcast, Kyle Nash, and I was telling him, earlier in the week I was leading Tennessee initially. I even told you this on text after the Dolphin game last week.
Yeah.
I was leading Tennessee initially, but so is everybody else, and that makes me feel uncomfortable. Like, this is weird. Like, everybody's picking Tennessee to win this game this week? Like, no, this is weird. Now, I will say for the record, the line has moved up to 5 points. Like, it opened 4.5. And now
right, I saw that.
Yeah, 1.5 points. I wonder if the public now is starting to say, let me just, cool my horses there. I know the Patriots are the same, but do they got one more dominant performance in them? This is in New England, in January, in the cold. In Foxborough, it's still Brady, it's still Belichick, there's still pieces there. The defense can play great. Tennessee could come into the game all cocky, and then they just kind of sort of like, just drop the ball. For 1 week, New England could say, you know what, y'all won down, it's no big deal. And I can see that happening. Now, whether or not they beat Kansas City and ultimately Baltimore, that's the bigger question. But in the onset, one way I was picking Tennessee, now I'm saying, wait, let me slow down here a second. I know Tennessee's really good, and they have the game plan to beat New England because the way they play is the way you beat New England. But again, this is not December and November. This is January, where the Patriots have always been successful. So I'm sort of weird in this weird place. Well, I'm doubting the Patriots. Like, nah, let me stop that real quick.
They haven't addressed the issues. I mean, how do you lose that game? How do you lose a game against, a Miami team? I mean, granted, they weren't the same team that they played,
week 2,
the first couple in
week
two.
Yeah.
But still, this is a team that really doesn't have, any marquee players. I mean, you got a veteran quarterback, a rookie coach. And you go into New England in a must-win game, and then what was that game plan? I mean, Edelman, to me, looks banged up.
Dude, he's a concussion away from being done.
Yeah, and he's just gutting it out for his best friend Brady. But you can tell that he had nothing in that game. So you take Edelman out. I don't understand. I mean, James White did, make that touchdown, to give them the lead, late in the game. But they haven't been using him the way they have in previous years. And it's Hoodie. It's, my way, and I don't have to answer it. But I don't understand. I mean, if your weapons are depleted and you've got a guy, who is one of your main weapons, and you're not using him, I don't understand, the whole offense thing, what they're doing, and the defense, looked terrible. I mean,
yeah, they look sloppy on Sunday. I will say that. But to be fair though, Jack, to be fair too, and this is where the concern comes in, where I agree with the concern. Their D is so good though, but the offense is so bad that the defense's margin of error is so slim now.
Yeah, the defense didn't look good. Jarvis Landry made Gil look really bad on Sunday. I mean, and granted, I mean, okay, yeah, I mean, he is the premier shutdown, defensive back, but he didn't look good on Sunday. Now,
Gilmore has struggled last couple weeks. I will agree with you on that one.
Yeah, we'll give you one stinker, but it came at a big time. They needed that game. They were a 16.5-point favorite. Maybe it wasn't cold enough in New England. It was kind of mid to low 40s.
It was pretty out there. I will give you that. It was pretty out there.
I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't awful. It needed to be a little colder to really affect the South Florida team. And
what's the weather?
And it didn't really affect.
Well, what's the weather out there going to be on Saturday?
I haven't checked yet. In fact, I could probably check real quick.
Because I'm kind of wondering if that's one reason why the spread moved up a little bit is because of the weather. I mean, those things play a part in these games.
We're looking at 33 degrees, maybe so 33. Maybe you got some freezing rain. If it's because 33 is like right on the cusp. You throw in some wind and you get like the wind chill. So. Yeah, that could be a factor. It's definitely New England Foxborough type weather. where it's going to be just a little colder. So
do you think that after all this, like whether it ends this weekend or maybe in Kansas City next week or whatever it ends, you think this is over? You think that because one of my concerns I have, one reason why I'm concerned about the Patriots moving forward, is that if we were to believe what you're saying is true, that that Brady was to be done in New England and all that, there's really no game plan as to what's the next step going forward. There's no backup. There's no rookie in place. They're not bad enough to draft a guy early in the draft. They had a guy, Garoppolo. He's gone. So
right. There's a lot of things that are out of place right now because now I guess McDaniels, whom I thought was the heir apparent, is now going to be. I don't know. Just because the interviews obviously doesn't mean he's going to take the job. I mean, hell, he can take the job and still not take the job.
Right.
When you Josh McDaniels. But, I mean, he actually said some things about the Cleveland situation, and he's from the Cleveland area, so that's enticing to him. So you take that next step out. I mean, and I really wonder, what's going to happen in New England? I really don't think the fans will rally around Belichick the way they would have rallied around Brady if Belichick had been the one to leave. Like, say Belichick took the job with the Giants, and McDaniels took over as head coach. I really don't think there'd be a lot of crying in New England the way they're going to be like really missing Brady if he's not there next year.
Well,
I think
are you saying that Brady has a bigger approval rating than Belichick in New England?
I think based on ability alone, they're both the greatest. Okay, we give them that, and you probably saw them on the NFL 100 there. They were on last week, probably pulling muscles, patting themselves on the back.
Yeah.
I really want to criticize that whole. That was an ill-conceived show. The timing was terrible. I mean, talk about giving Breeze and Rodgers motivation to kick your ass, leaving them off the team, and then here's Brady and Belichick right there, on the stage with Rich Eisen, telling stories and. Basically,
if Tom Brady was 32 years old, I can see that argument, but Tom Brady's 42. Like, Dre, you gotta pick on the old guy. Okay, cool. He has 6 rings already. Do your job. I mean, that's only one for me personally, because Tom Brady's Tom Brady can go 3-13 next year as doing a quarterback. It doesn't change anything.
No, what I'm saying is that show needed to wait till after the Super Bowl.
Well.
Even if I don't understand that. Why are they on there in their suits, all smiley and happy? Basically patting each other on the back, saying, "Hey, look at us! We're the greatest. We're on the list. We made the list." I don't understand that. I mean, the ultimate hoodie guy to not give other teams motivation. There you are, all smiley, and look at me. I'm one of the greatest coaches, and look at Tom. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks, and we'll leave Rodgers and Breeze off the list, whether they deserve to be on there or not. I mean, do it after the season. It looked, and especially Hoodie. I mean, I just think that it's just a smug, arrogant guy, whether he deserves it or not. I mean, enough. I mean, there's stuff going on right now. Still kind of pissed off about the Philadelphia Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, and then this whole season not getting, and Hoodie is the GM. Where are the players? Where's the replacement for Gronk? Where's the offense?
They could have gotten Jared. They could have gotten Jared Cook, but what happened was that apparently Jared Cook didn't want to play with Gronk, and Gronk decided to retire too late, to where Jared Cook committed to where the team went to last year, or this year rather.
I mean, there had to be some options out there. I mean, to go with basically nobody. To go from one of the greatest tight ends of the last decade to nothing, that's kind of a big drop-off.
That's a huge
drop-off. What do you expect? So what do you expect? To go from Gronk to a 38-year-old Ben Watson and 2 other guys who will be, working the door at a Boston nightclub next year? I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it. Hoodie's going to have a lot to answer for, and he's going to have probably more than he can answer for if this is Brady's last home game. There's going to be a big explosion in Boston, especially if they do get upset this Saturday. I mean, there's going to be you'll be able to hear it from down here.
There's some Pats fans I'm close to that has told me that they think the Pats going to lose this game. They picked Tennessee. Like I don't know if they're saying that just kind of panic or they're saying it because they truly believe that. But I've heard a couple of my friends who are Pats fans tell me that they think Tennessee's winning on Saturday.
There's just a definite underlying, and it's got more to do than just the game. It's the behind the scenes thing. Does Belichick want Brady next year? I mean, if you don't feel wanted, are you going to play a great game? If you're feeling unappreciated, unwanted, and insecure about where you're going to play next year, I mean, here's a guy who basically is the heart and soul of New England, changed the whole attitude and atmosphere of a pretty much Danny Downer region who hadn't won anything for like 1,000 years. They were pretty much, a forgotten town. And then here he goes. He turns the whole attitude around by winning a Super Bowl, winning another Super Bowl, and then just it got contagious. And then the other teams, caught the excitement and just trying to keep pace, and it changed the whole region. So New England is forever indebted to Tom Brady for just changing the whole attitude to how are we going to lose this game to, hey, look, we got this. We're going to pull this out. I remember, growing up as a kid, and we used to lose some games, and it was just a defeatist, Danny Downer, pessimistic attitude. And now anybody who, if you're a millennial, that's all you know is winning. But if you're 40 or older, you know the tough years that you went through as a New England fan, with the Patriots just being awful for so many years, the Red Sox with the curse and all that stuff, and the Bruins. You had the Celtics, but the Celtics weren't front page on the Boston sports page in Boston. That was for the Red Sox. The Red Sox have always been the front page of the sports page. That's just the way it's been in Boston like forever. And now here the Patriots come along, and they are New England, and to not have Tom Brady next year, and to really not even have someone in place.
Yeah, that's the scary part, and that's why I think it's possible. People think what's crazy saying is that they can go from this where they are now to fall off the cliff completely, because if there's no plan in place, and if the optics doesn't tell you Brady's gone, and who knows if Belichick what happens next year, they can go from a 12-4 team this year, bounce out of either the wild card or second round of playoffs, to being a team that's probably 8 worse.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to have that fairy tale ending at the end of this year. You're not going to have Brady and Belichick standing up on the podium, holding the Lombardi and giving the speech, and then Robert Kraft coming up and doing the 5 martini round Patriot speech. It's going to be a different ending this year, and I don't know if it all comes together next year where everybody says, okay, let's just regroup. This really feels to me like this is the end of the party. The party's over, and it's time to start cleaning up.
That's the vibe I'm getting also. That's the vibe I'm getting also from people.
Yeah, and where's the excitement? Where's the interest? I mean, what happens next year? I mean, to season ticket holders, I mean, how can you get excited about a team that really let the greatest quarterback of all time just leave?
This is the thing, though. This is the thing that I think really more than anything else is, you had a plan in place 3 years ago with Garoppolo on the roster. He was the guy next in line, and yet it came time to make a decision on that. Ownership chose Brady, and by the way, based on the result, they made the right choice, because you still got 2 Super Bowls out of that. You got 3 trips, 2 rings out of that. anywhere. I don't think you get a Garoppolo necessarily. That's not guaranteed to get a Garoppolo. So you still got the desired result out of your guy you've had for the last 20 years. But again, the problem is when you keep punting on this, you keep punting this every year. You get the results, but at some point it's going to come to an end. And the problem is now is that that's coming to end. It's coming to end, and it doesn't seem like right now in the onset there's no, next chapter, right? A foundation for the next chapter in place yet.
And that makes it harder to understand. I mean, obviously, you had Steve Young waiting in the wings for Montana. You had Aaron Rodgers waiting in the wings for Favre. There's nobody waiting in the wings right now. So, and you're still going to let this guy skip town. And
are you suggesting that the Pats should still keep one more year?
I'm suggesting, and I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but it just looks to me like they're tanking. Not tanking, but they're just underperforming to have an excuse to move in a different direction.
It's funny you say that, and actually, I that has crossed my mind. I'm not gonna lie to you, Jack. That has crossed my mind a couple times this year. That maybe this is on purpose so that Brady can just leave and they can actually move on.
Nothing else makes sense to me. How could the greatest coach of all time not take a timeout? With 3 timeouts, you got over a minute. I'm not sure exactly. It was a good maybe a minute and a half, and they're known for scoring on the last play going into the half and then getting the ball and then scoring again. I mean, they talk about that all the time. And then to not use those timeouts, I mean, I don't get that. That was definitely a red flag, and I'm not the only one who noticed it. I saw on a lot of posting that people didn't understand. So that to me, I mean, Hoodie just didn't forget how to coach. There's something going on, and I don't get it. And the way they came out, I figured, okay, we'll let it go if we come out in the second half and just go gangbusters and win that game. But the second half, no adjustments made. They came out, and they did take the lead, but you knew they didn't have that game. They did not control and dominate that game like they should against a team that on paper was just inferior. This is a home game in December, a must-win playoff type game, and you throw up a stinker to the Dolphins, and then you do what you do at the end of the first half. That's a huge red flag, and he didn't answer for it because he's the Hoodie. He doesn't have to. But to me, it's really it looks suspicious.
Well, let me ask you this real quick for this weekend's game, 48 hours away. How are you feeling right now about the Tennessee game?
I almost don't even care. It's kind of anticlimactic. I mean, I thought that the way we played in that Miami game, that game ended, and you're thinking, how can we beat Kansas City? Even if we do somehow come out and beat Kansas City, Baltimore, in Baltimore? No. Even the most die-hard Patriots fan right now has seen that Baltimore team and Lamar Jackson. Who has stopped him? Who can stop him? The Patriots have a great D. They couldn't stop him. He lifts them up, and he's only gotten stronger. He's had a week off to rest. I mean, it's Baltimore's Super Bowl to lose. So, after watching that Miami game, you're just thinking, that team that I saw on last Sunday, they can't beat Baltimore.
Can they at least beat Tennessee, though?
Possibly, but what's the point? I mean, you almost want them to take a mercy killing so they don't have to.
I'll tell you what, if they lose Tennessee, that's what, like, it'd be one thing they lose to Kansas City or Baltimore, because that's kind of like almost based on everything we've seen now in the last few weeks now. That kind of feels expected now. But losing to Tennessee at home it's actually going to be even worse.
Well, yeah, to me, but there would be a mercy killing because, okay, number one, that game against Kansas City shouldn't be in Kansas City. So that's the first thing I've got an issue with.
Yeah.
So yeah, even if we win that game, we got to go to Kansas City. I mean, and Kansas City beat us earlier this year.
Yeah.
So how ugly will that be if the team that showed up on Sunday does somehow pull out a game against Tennessee based on, the experience? I mean, we still have Brady. We still have, the experience, with Edelman and James White. Let's not forget the defense, although not as great as, originally advertised after the first 8 games, the defense is still very good.
The team is still top 3 in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they're still very good. They're still playing at home. Ryan Tannehill is not the second coming. They've got a great running back.
There he is, cocky Pats fan. Come on now. There he is. The confidence, buddy.
What's that? No, I'm talking about Tennessee.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, Tennessee is not an awful team.
They're a solid team,
and they've got an ex-New England Patriot for a coach, so that is not a gimme. They could easily lose that game. 4.5 points does not make me, want to do cartwheels. I mean, we're a 16.5 point favorite against Miami, and what's changed in a week?
Maybe the weather. Maybe it's the weather. I don't know.
I mean, here's the bottom line: Tennessee is a much better team than Miami, and Miami beat us. So they've got to have a better plan. They've got to play better defensively, and they've got to have an answer offensively, and they really haven't for the second half of the year. I mean, from games 9 to 16, the offense just wasn't that good, and that's the big question. If the offense isn't that good, what's going to inspire Brady to come back next year? If they're not going to give him weapons, I mean, won't he just say, okay, you're not going to support me? Yeah, I will go somewhere else.
Well, last thing, let you go. Last thing here. Assuming Brady leaves. Assuming Brady leaves, Brady's gone after the year's over. What, you think Belichick will be gone too? Or do you think Belichick will stick around for a couple more years?
I think if Belichick stays, he's going to incur the wrath. I don't think he understands in his arrogant, hoodie brain mind the wrath that he is going to incur next year. He is going to be blamed for this, and rightfully so. And he's going to maybe have to answer some of those questions he hasn't answered, like for the Philadelphia Super Bowl, for the Malcolm Butler thing, and for not getting the weapons for Brady this year, for not calling timeout, at the end of the first half of that Miami game and not doing your job. He'll have to answer to things, and I don't think Hoodie's exit will be as
it's clean.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be as missed as much as Brady. I mean, they'll still have awards for him, and one day, somebody will be handed the Belichick trophy instead of the Lombardi trophy. But I think his exit from New England after next year, when they go 9-7 or 8-8, will not be pretty.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll be texting you up and down on Saturday night during the game and see how you feel, get a pulse of the situation, because next couple weeks could be a lot. It could be a very interesting time in the Northeast. Patriot fans are on the pins and needles right now. If you sound like every other Patriot fan I've spoken to the last couple of days. So that's what the vibe I'm getting from everybody else I'm talking to. The same thing you're telling me here tonight. It's the same thing vibe I'm getting.
Oh, the changes that could be coming, earth-shattering. I mean, you won't recognize New England next year. I really believe that.
Well, we'll see what happens. It could end this week or next week or maybe even February again. Who knows? But Jack, thanks on the pod.
Who knows?
Thanks on the pod. Appreciate it, brother.
Always a pleasure.